So Ghanaian MP Sam George has came out speaking about what the United States and other Western powers have been threatening to Ghana, because Ghana is trying to follow suit to creating a law maybe similar to Uganda's LGBTQ law. And Sam George isn't having it with the potential threats against other lawmakers if they pass the particular bill that they're trying to craft in their country. Let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Because, Mr. Speaker, like it is attributed to Robert Mugabe, if you put two men in a room and give them 12 months to produce as an offspring, they cannot produce an offspring. And so, Mr. Speaker, we will continue to stand here. But let me use this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to celebrate Mr. Speaker, who has been a stalwart and a bastion for this bill. But for Mr. Speaker, this bill would most likely have been killed. Mr. Speaker has stood his ground and ensured that this bill has come this far. And I want to use this opportunity with the support of my colleague members of parliament, since we all support this bill, to serve notice to the Western powers that we have taken judicial notice of what they have done to the Speaker of Uganda. After Uganda passed the bill, the sanctions on the Speaker of Uganda's parliament and on the sponsors of those bills, we will serve notice as well that if they replicate same with our Speaker and members of parliament, we will also take action against their business interest in our country, because they serve in this country and make money from here and take back home. They cannot hold us to ransom. And like has been asked on this floor, Mr. Speaker, why is it that the American Secretary of State has not sanctioned the Secretary of Defense? Because June was declared Pride Month and they had transgender parades. The US Secretary of Defense blocked and stopped a transgender parade on a US Air Force base because he said the US Pentagon, which is their defense headquarters, would not support such activity. Governor DeSantis has passed legislation against open transgender parades in Florida. Why have they not taken on their own citizens? In fact, in 2022 alone, there were 433 actions in State House of Legislatures across the United States, banning and clamping down on homosexuality. The Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS, just last week, passed a landmark judgment enforcing the rights of American citizens to refuse to offer services to people on the basis of their faith and because they were LGBTQ. Mr. Speaker, it shows you that even America has realized the error of their judgment and are walking back their steps. Italy in June designated June also as Family Protection Month to counter the Pride Month. Maybe that's something Ghana should begin to consider, that we make June a family values month to celebrate the Ghanaian family value.
We are aware of the attacks and the threats that have been made, but like we serve notice, we're a sovereign nation and we will stand for what is Ghanaian. And we also want to serve notice to those issuing the threats that carrying out those threats will be a high-risk enterprise here in Ghana, because we will come on the floor of Parliament, use your platforms as media houses because we know you support this bill, and publicize every business that is from that country in this country that operates in Ghana and call on Ghanaians to boycott them. So if any government of any country thinks that they will sanction any of the sponsors of the bill or the Speaker of Parliament after this bill is passed, they should prepare to pack up and leave our country as well, because we would also instigate public outcry against their business interests in our country. If they work here, they must respect our laws, because when we visit their countries, we respect their laws. And until we see them carry out those threats against the likes of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Ukraine, or Russia, Bahrain, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Russia and China, then they should stay off Ghana. We are committed to ensure that under the guidance of Right Honorable Speaker, we would go into the consideration. We expect the consideration stage to be a very swift one, because even though there are a number of amendments, those amendments are largely a product of agreement between the sponsors and the committee. And so there would be hardly any cantankerous debates on the subject of those amendments.
Now, I will say this. Ghana, in my opinion, that brother need to be your next president. That brother right there. I like that brother. That brother is outspoken. The brother called out the Western powers. He let them know, you're not going to come in here just doing what you want to do. Oh, no. He said, we are our own country. We are a sovereign nation. And you heard what he said. He said, look, if you going to go it on and sanction all of us, we gonna just boycott your businesses and mess up your money in here.
And I want to use this opportunity with the support of my colleague members of parliament, since we all support this bill, to serve notice to the Western powers that we have taken judicial notice of what they have done to the Speaker of Uganda. After Uganda passed the bill, the sanctions on the Speaker of Uganda's parliament and on the sponsors of those bills, we will serve notice as well that if they replicate same with our Speaker and members of parliament, we will also take action against their business interests in our country, because they serve in this country and make money from here and take back home. They cannot hold us to ransom.
And I say, right on, brother, right on. I'm starting to love that a lot of leaders in the African continent are starting to stand up to the Western world. You know, you got your brother Sam here, Sam George. You have President Museveni. You have President Kagame in Rwanda. You have President Ruto in Kenya. You have a whole lot, other MPs that's in Kenya as well, that's come out saying things. Like they not liking this, okay? I'm gonna tell you why the Western world's not liking this. The Western world's not liking this because they're trying to do everything they can to slow down population growth in the African continent. That's why. And the only way they can slow it down is bringing in, ways for them not to have children. And the ultimate way for you not to have children is if you are in a relationship, if you're a man relationship with a man, a woman relationship with a woman. That's the ultimate way for you not to have children. But on the African continent, that's not their culture. That's not conducive for them. That's pretty big in the Western world. That's more so a European culture, because you research their history, they've been practicing that for a very, 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 very long time. That's more so their culture. Now, because we live in the Western world, their culture rubs off on us. But if you go to the African continent, that's far and few in between. What I love about the African continent, they promote traditional families. And you heard what this brother said. We need to have Family Month, promoting the traditional family. And I will say to my brothers and sisters on the African continent, protect your family at all costs. Protect your culture at all costs. Do not let the Western world and their perversions come into the African continent and change your people. If you need to cut off certain Western movies, Western television, cut that out of your country, because you don't need the influence. All the housewives shows, you don't need that kind of influence. All the different degenerate things that go on, you don't need the influence, because you have impressionable young people that's on the internet and seeing certain things. But yeah, if that brother runs for president, yeah, y'all need to vote for him. If I was a Ghanaian, I would vote for him. Like I said, I love brothers or any sisters like that that's gonna speak up and speak out. And he definitely has a backbone, about him. People have to understand, like you said, if they're not pushing sanctions on Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, Jordan, Kuwait, all the Arab nations who has those same laws, if they're not pushing sanctions on them, well, then they can't be pushing it on the Africans. So if they sanction the Africans and not the Arabs, it lets you know it's nothing but some racism. And Africans need to understand that on the continent. When we talk about racism, white supremacy, and it's a global system, this is exactly what we're talking about, and this is what they're trying to push in your country. They want to sanction you, but not sanction Saudi Arabia. They're not defending LGBT rights, because Saudi Arabia would have been, and the rest of them would have been sanctioned a long time ago. And they're not doing it. In these Arab countries, if you're LGBT, you can lose your life. So they're not defending LGBT rights. They're using LGBT to try to harm black nations. And that's wrong. You don't use LGBT for that. But let me know what y'all think about, our brother Sam George, any Ghanaians that's in the chat. What you think about that brother? You think he's good enough to, would y'all like to have him as your president? Because like I said, there's not too many people I've heard out of Ghana talking like that.